Hey everybody, welcome to the next episode of Model Building Start to Finish. We're still, this is John sitting with Dan. We're still working on this O-scale feed store.
Right.
And it seems like we're getting close to the end here, Dan.
So the building itself is pretty much finished. Might do a little weathering on it, but I also want to add some details. So I've assembled some detail parts.
Is that what that weird assortment of junk is on the table?
Yeah. So the sort of yellowish thing, or a set of 3 parts, is a Coke machine from Scale City Designs. That's part 48009. And then I have 48151, which is a Scale City Designs 55-gallon drum set, although I'm only going to use one of them because I don't really have room for more than that.
When you say drum set, I think of drums with cymbals and all that.
Yeah, no, this is a little set of detail parts that comes with 6 of those.
Oh, I see.
But there isn't room for 6 of those.
It's that thing next to the trash can, right?
Yeah, the big cylinder. Yeah. And then Scale City Designs 48-421 fire extinguisher, which is the thing, the little cylinder inside the little crate.
Okay.
So it's a fire extinguisher with a holder. And then from Wiseman Model Services, I have part 0136, which is feed sacks. Those are those things right out in front there. 0143 push brooms, of which I'm only using one. I think it comes with 3, or several anyway. Part 0184, which is an electrical meter.
Oh, right. I see that next to the fire extinguisher.
Right. And that also comes with 3, but I'm only going to use 1. 0201 is small trash cans. I think that comes with 2, but I'm only using 1. Those have separate lids, although I think I might just glue the lid on mine because there isn't a lot of room there. And then 0296, which is shipping pallets.
Oh, right. Pallets. There they are.
Yeah. So basically most of these are white metal castings, except for the one that's resin. The Coke machine is a resin casting, or a set of resin castings that have to be put together. All of these basically involve cleaning up with a file, washing them, and then priming them and painting them.
Okay.
So it's washing them just like we washed all the parts of the building. So it's the same process. Just I'll probably spray them with some glass cleaner, let them dry, and then prime them.
I guess if people want to watch you wash stuff, they can go back to the first or second episode of this feed store series and watch you wash and and dry the pieces of the model.
Right. It's exactly the same. So most of these parts I'm using straight out of the box, but a couple of them I'm going to modify. One is the electrical box. I want to drill into the top of it so I can put a conduit pipe.
Oh, right. They always have that.
Yeah, and as it turns out, it already has a little dimple. So I'm using a number 67 drill bit, and I'm just going to very carefully drill down through the top. So one other part I'm going to modify is the little box that holds the fire extinguisher. As it comes out of the detail package, it's designed to be mounted on a pole, and they include a little piece of pole that's supposed to be like a little piece of scrap rail or something.
Oh.
But I want to just glue mine to the side of the building, and this lip on the back of it's in the way. So I'm just going to file that off.
Oh, right. I can see that.
That way it'll fit flush against the building.
Yeah, so it's going to be flat basically, huh?
Yeah. Now that I've painted some of these details with a spray can, I'm going to do a little more painting with a brush. Like this broom, I'll highlight the bristles.
And what color is this?
This is just flat black. I'm also using flat black on the nozzle of the fire extinguisher. I'm going to use a little silver to pick out some other details. One thing that's really important when doing work like this is to have a good brush. If you have an old brush with stray hairs, it's going to make a mess.
Right, make dots everywhere or lines where you don't want them.
Right, really hard to control. So I sprayed the palettes with a wood color, and now I'm going to hit them with some pan pastels. This is one called Raw Umber Tint, which instead of looking dark is actually kind of a light, almost off-white color. And then to age it a little, I can use a little bit of gray.
Are you putting it on specific, separate planks or?
Yeah, you can hit different planks. You can even use black. Just,
I've seen pallets that have writing on them too. So I suppose if you wanted to get really creative, you could even hit it with some kind of a marker or something, huh?
you could. And then I'll go back with some of that raw umber tint just to kind of blend it all together. And you end up with a sort of aged-looking palette.
Yeah, it looks like a real palette.
Cool. I've used some black pan pastels to weather the little box that the fire extinguisher goes in. And I'm just going to put a little dot of canopy glue on the bottom of the fire extinguisher and set it in the box. I don't want to display the garbage can open. I'm just going to glue the lid on, and I'm using some canopy glue to do that. Just put a little bit inside the lid and just stick it on.
How's Oscar the Grouch going to open it up, Dan?
He won't be able to. He'll be stuck. I'm using CA to put the Coke machine together.
Yeah, every feed store has to have a vending machine. What they should have done is have a candy machine. That would be fun to put all those little bags of candy and stuff in there.
Yeah.
What would be even cooler is to make it work. I'll file that under my idea of making fans on locomotives work.
Yeah, well, that's got a better chance than
What, the fans on the locomotives?
than making little candy bags.
It ain't happening, pal. Candy bags. So this is one of those old vending machines with the door on the side, huh? That you pull on, or?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
We're advertising for Coke.
Oh.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't like Coke. I like Pepsi.
Well, whatever. This is just a little model.
I'd like to point out how Dan just blew off my stupid comments.
The machine comes with 2 laser cut signs. I think you only really need one of them, so one is a spare in case you wreck one. So I'm going to try to cut this out without destroying it.
While he's doing that, I'm also going to make another comment that I understand why he blew off my stupid comments. So I guess that's okay. That makes it okay. At least it does in my mind. And you can't see it because he's not on camera, but he's laughing right now while he's trying to cut that little piece of thing.
I'm concentrating. So I'm going to use just a little bit of canopy glue on the back of the sign. Trying to spread on very thin so it doesn't squeeze all over the place.
Almost seems like just a dab of CA or something would work too, wouldn't it? Like one little dot of CA on that thing?
Yeah, I'm kind of afraid of getting the front of the machine all smeared, though. That's kind of the tricky part. This is very thin, very bendy. So then I'll just stick it on like it's a decal.
Yeah, I'm surprised. It seems like it would have come with a decal instead of that. But I'm guessing that a decal might not look as good, might not stand out as much as something with a little bit of relief to it.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks pretty good.
I painted the feed sacks a color that reminded me of burlap. And now I'm using some of that same raw umber tint pan pastels to kind of fade it and make them look a little bit less shiny. Even though this was supposedly flat paint, ended up having just a slight sheen to it.
Yeah, that's odd.
Yeah, sometimes it happens.
It's hard to tell. You know, when I was a kid, I grew up in the country, and I remember sacks full of grain or whatever. Grain, right? That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And they always were like, Purina. So they had a little logo, on it, right? So,
well, if you wanted to, I guess you could get little decals and do that, but
yeah,
that's a little more work than I want to do right now.
Yeah. While you're being honest, why don't you tell us how you really feel?
So for the garbage can, I've mixed up a thin wash of flat black paint. It's acrylic, so I'm using glass cleaner as a thinner.
Oh, look at that. Yeah.
And I'll just highlight some of the detail on the garbage can.
Yeah, it's that whole popping effect that I always talk about.
Yeah. Well, it has all those nice little corrugations on it.
Yeah. Yeah, that really does make it look a lot more realistic, or real, I suppose.
Yeah. So this 55-gallon drum actually has little pockmarks on the outside, which reminded me of rust spots. So I thought, well, why don't we try a rust wash on it? What I'm hoping is that the rust wash will collect in those little pockmarks.
Yeah.
And it will look like rust spots.
You know, this almost seems like it might be a good candidate for one of those dunking methods, because you really have to get that crap all over it, don't you?
Yeah. I like to control the amount of wash I'm using, though, because it's, it's really easy to overdo.
Yeah.
You can always add, you can always add more later.
Yep.
Can't really take it off so easily.
Oh, I could get it off. Sandblaster or...
Well, I mean, without having to repaint the whole thing,
Wire brush. How about a wire wheel and a grinder, bench grinder?
Yeah, you'd just destroy the whole thing that way, which I guess would solve the problem.
It would get the paint off.
It would.
You could probably blow it up too.
Yeah. So before I start putting all those details I just painted on, I want to do a little more weathering on the building itself, especially on the roof, because it's a little bit too uniform and clean looking right now. So I'm going to use some black and gray pan pastels to try to make it look a little more weathered.
Yeah, I don't know if it's showing up on the camera so well, but when you added the black just a second ago, it looked like rain. I don't know what you call it, marks, I guess, that had dripped down the roof. I don't know if that was that what you were going after. Or?
That's kind of what I'm after, and I'm using a very stiff brush, so it kind of scrubs it in. And if it ends up looking too gray, I just put more black on. Now I'm going to use some dark brown colored powder and kind of scuff up the area behind the door, because that would probably get banged a lot.
Oh, right. It's a sliding door, so yeah. I wonder why. This is just a rhetorical question. You don't know the answer and don't have to answer this, but I wonder why they didn't put handles on any of the doors. The front door has no handle. The sliding doors have no, doorknobs or handles or anything. And having grown up in the country and seen buildings just like this, there would be something on that sliding door on the left side of it, a piece of 2x4 or something that you could grab onto, because it's really hard to open a heavy door like that without some kind of a handle or raised piece that you can grab onto or push on.
Can also use some black. Another thing that is pretty common on wood structures is for the windowsills to be dirty.
Yes, it's true. Seen that a lot of times too.
So I'm using a little bit of black weathering powder on the windowsills. You can also put rain streaks at the corners of the windows, although I would say to do this in a very subtle way, because I think it's real easy to overdo it.
Well, it's definitely subtle, but I can see it, and it does look good. That your soft blending brush?
Yeah, whenever I use powders, I like to blend it with a soft brush afterwards. I'm going to paint the doorknob silver.
Right, so it has a molded doorknob.
Yeah, it looks more like a door lock, really, not like a knob, but that's okay.
Yeah, it just seems like it should have a doorknob, and at this scale, it would stick out too. Like you'd really see it.
Right. So before I call the weathering done, I want to blacken the chimney a little, so I'm going to use some black powder for that.
Yeah, this reminds me of how you darken the stacks on locomotives. It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, having been up on many roofs in my time and seen many chimneys, that's what it would look like, you know?
I made a conduit for my electrical box from some 028 brass wire and just spray painted it the same color as the rest of the trim. And that'll fit into the little hole that I drilled into the top of the box earlier. And I decided to glue it on the end of the building away from the office since there's not really much of any detail there yet. So I just put a little CA on the back of the box and I'm going to glue it over here.
Oh, that looks really neat. I was commenting that off camera that the conduit would have definitely been the base color, because any painter would have painted over that with the base color. But it stands out more like this, so I think this looks better than it would if it was the base color. Looks nice.
Yeah, I think the details kind of add something.
They finish off something that looked good but not finished.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just the right amount too. I think any more would look too cluttered. So that loading dock isn't actually all that big, really. So anyway, that'll do it for this episode. Next time we'll come back and look at how I create the custom signage for the building.
Oh, well, that'll be interesting. I don't think I've seen you do that before.
Yeah, so that'll be a little bit different than what we've been doing so far, but I think it might be pretty interesting, so we'll see how it goes.
Okay, I guess we'll see everybody on the next episode.